We are here in Chico, California on May 21st, and my name is Bianca Quilantan, and I'm with David Phillips. We are going to be discussing the shooting of his son, Desmond Phillips, on March 17th by the Chico Police Department. So something to kind of start off with is the Washington Post says if you are black, you are 2.5 times more likely to be shot by police officers than if you are white. You kind of mentioned to us earlier that I never thought I would be here discussing this. How do you think this statistic has affected your life right now?
It has affected our life tremendously. We're at a loss. It's affected our life.
Yeah.
Really hard. I can't even put it in words.
Could you describe for me what happened on March 17th?
Yeah. Excuse me. I had my son was getting he was diagnosed with PTSD. He was beaten by Sacramento Police Department in 2016, excuse me. Traumatic trauma to the head. His first encounter ever with law enforcement, because he is a very religious kid, you know. He loved the Lord, he loved people, and he was praying by the light rail. Sacramento Police Department approached him. He was in a fetal position praying, didn't respond quick enough. First encounter with law enforcement, it landed him in ICU for 4 days. He suffered, again, traumatic trauma to the head. He suffered liver damage as well as kidney damage from that. So I moved him to Chico, thinking that he would be safe. And the day in question, March 17th, he was getting ready to have a mental breakdown, and I called the paramedics, which I've done 2 times prior, and they knew his history. They knew the history that he had of mental illness. But this time they just kicked the door in and tased him. 2 seconds later, they put 16 gunshots in my baby.
What was it? You had previously called the police to come and check up on your son?
No, incorrect. I called the paramedics to come and take my son to the hospital. They've done that 2 times before. First time they took my son they had to take him in a restraint because he was highly agitated. Second time, he got up off the couch. There was a female officer there. She obviously had experience in mental health training. She talked to my son very calmly. My son got up voluntarily, got on the gurney, got in the ambulance, went to the hospital, got treatment.
But this time, the police showed up instead of paramedics?
The paramedics showed up. My son was dancing in the living room. He was getting ready to have a breakdown. That's why I initially called. The paramedics showed up. They took the headphones off of him. They took his glasses off of him. They made a motion, Desmond, let's go. Desmond moved his arm like that. Not in a violent way, he just moved his arm like he didn't want to go.
And where were you during this?
I was standing right there. I seen everything. It's when they left and went out the door. They were outside discussing calling the police. So that agitated my son. He shut the front door. He locked it.
So when the police came, they said that they saw him pacing across the inside of your apartment with a knife. Was it a knife that he was holding?
Correct. I called them. Again, when they discussed calling the police, what happened to him in Sacramento, he has PTSD. He got scared, paranoid, and he wanted to protect himself. Yeah. He armed himself with a knife. I called them and told them my son had a knife so that they wouldn't come in there and do what they did. I didn't want them to come in and say, oh, we're surprised. He had a knife. We didn't know he had a knife and didn't shoot my baby. They knew it. That's why they came with riot gear, shields, tasers.
Was there anything on them that was like non-combative that they could have used in order to help Desmond?
They used the taser. They could have used the beanbag, if necessary, pepper spray, mace, but they didn't. They came, I didn't even know the police were there. They came unannounced. They did not knock on the door, bang, 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 Chico Police, open the door. They didn't do any of that. They knew what they wanted to do when they entered our home. And they kicked the door in again, as I said. 2 seconds later, they unloaded 16 shots. When they tased my son, I seen my son's body lock up, and my baby was falling to the ground, and they were.
Did anyone else see it?
Well, excuse me.
Are you okay? It's okay. We can take a small, tiny break.
No,
Are you
let's
okay?
go.
So in the Chico cell, they reported that your 2 grandchildren also witnessed this.
My grandchildren were in the house, and actually my oldest grandson was on the phone talking with my daughter, and he told my daughter, he said, they're coming, they got shields. And one of them shined the light in my grandson's eye to blind him. And so he shut the blind, and then, like I said, they kicked the door open, and they tased him, and my son locked up, and they just kept shooting him. All I seen, was my son falling to the ground, and I just seen the shirt moving like this. This was from the bullets. When the guy shot my baby so fast, I'm like from me to you, from the officer, and he did it so fast I couldn't even knock the aim out. I couldn't rush him. He did it that quick. They murdered my baby. And I mean, they shot him in his face. They shot him in the neck. They shot him in his heart. They shot him in his chest. They murdered him. That's what they came to do, and they did it. It was a hate crime. It was a hate crime and a murder.
So after all of this, when, I noticed that they put him in handcuffs after he was shot?
They shot my son 16 times. I knew my son was dead before he hit the floor. And then I crawled to my child. I crawled to him. And my baby, I crawled to him. I knew he was dead. And they made me get back. And they handcuffed him after shooting him 16 times. They handcuffed him. They had the nerves to handcuff him. After 16 times they shot my kid. They handcuffed him. He didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve to be murdered for having a mental disorder. 16 times, that's overkill. That's hate.
So, they're claiming that there was an immediate threat in the household, and that is why they had to shoot your son. Was there an immediate threat?
There was no immediate threat. Even by their own admission, they looked through there. They seen my son by itself walking back and forth in the living room. My grandsons were in one room, I was in the other one. And when they seen that, the immediate threat should have went right out the window. You know what I mean? He wasn't stabbing us. He wasn't cutting us or anything. He was by himself. And if they had any training, they would have got on the phone and called mental health or called somebody from the crisis center to come and help with the situations. They had time to do that. you know, but they, like I said, it was a hate crime. He was a young black man. He didn't even have a parking ticket, this kid, you know. He planned on going to Chico State with my grandson, his nephew. They took all that because of the color of his skin. You know, they took all that. How could somebody be so hateful?
Well, in the statistics, you know, there's 4 out of 8 of the fatal shootings have been mental health related problems. Has there been any accountability for the police department?
No, there has been no accountability at all. I see here, in which I just got, 9/22/13, Brianna Sharp, 19, murdered by Chico Police Department, shot and killed by the police department.
And you spoke to her mother, right?
I've been in contact with her mother. I've also been in contact with the grandmother of the one Keister killed, Andrew Thomas. I've talked to them as well. Again, you know, there's been 8 police-involved shootings in this county alone in 4 years. Police have been justified, as he says, as the DA said, it was justified shooting in all these cases. There's not been, well, there was one. He got 90 days, I believe, and that's a pretty light sentence for killing someone. And again, this guy was unarmed.
So on April 13th, the District Attorney Mark Ramsey issued a report finding that the officers committed no crime in killing your son at a press conference. The opening of Ramsey's single-spaced report emphasized the investigation was to determine if a crime was committed, not a critique of an involved officer's tactics. What were your thoughts on his report after it was released?
I was outraged because, again, Ramsey wasn't there. I was, and I seen a murder. And how can you justify shooting someone 16 times? Ramsey's only admitting to my son being shot 10 times. I talked with the funeral home in Sacramento after we got my child home, and he informed me that my son took all 16 shots. Which brings me to another point where Mr. Ramsey says that they were so close that one of the officers had blood on his gun. If he was so close, how could he miss? If he was so close, if he was that close, how could my son only be shot 10 times? You know, so like I said, I was there, I seen it, and I have to relive it every day. Every day. And I couldn't protect my child, and that hurts. He didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve to be murdered because of the color of his skin, or he had a mental disorder.
So the DA also concluded that they had used the best tools and tactics possible and available at the time.
They had a beanbag available. Again, they tased my son. My son weighed 160 pounds. They tased him. My son's body locked up. They could have used mace or pepper spray. They could have used the beanbag. They chose to use live ammunition. That is totally, again, like I said, it's totally a hate crime, and it's murder. I witnessed murder, you know. So whatever he's saying, it doesn't even matter to me, because these 2 eyes seen what happened. And I can tell you the same story 30 years from now, because I know what I saw. They disregarded my grandkids, me, the neighbors. They shot up the place. They just shot it up, you know. So who were they concerned about? Whose safety were they concerned about? No one's.
So after all of this, and you know, his report not finding the officers guilty of committing any kind of crime, what precedent has this set for African American members of this community if they ever have to call the police?
People are scared to call the police, first of all. They are, and it's a shame when you're afraid to call the police. I don't know about the rest of the African American community, but I know me personally is that I know that I'm not going to let this is not going to go away. I'm going to do everything in my power to get these officers fired and brought up on charges. And I don't want to settle for nothing less but capital murder, which carries a death penalty. But I'm not about the death penalty. I'm about them spending the rest of their life behind bars because they took a life. A young kid, the tender age of 25 years old. He just turned 25 January 1st. March 17th, he's dead. It's not right.
So, could you tell me a little bit more about your son? The police department portrayed Desmond as a mentally ill man, waving around a weapon in his apartment and pacing. What was your son actually like?
My son didn't have a violent bone in his body. Anybody that know him personally, he was a child of God. He wanted to help everybody. When I moved him to Chico with me, he joined this church, AME Church, immediately, and he wanted to do a father and son thing, and I left it up to him. What do you want to do, baby? And he said, Dad, let's go downtown after church. Let's feed the homeless. And we've been doing that for 6-7 months, since he's been with me. Desmond loved everybody. He even loved those police officers that shot him. They just didn't know it. That kid didn't discriminate. He loved everyone. He would help anybody. He would give you anything. He didn't care about material things. He would give you. I cleaned his car out and I got a total of 7 Bibles out of his car. This kid had them in the trunk, he had them in the glove compartment, he had them in the side doors. He had little Bibles like this, the little pamphlet ones. He was a child of God, and he wouldn't hurt nobody. And they took away a major part. That was my baby son. Man, that's my baby boy. This is my baby son, man, my little king. They took him. They murdered him. They murdered him. And I had to witness it. I seen it. The same officer involved in this shooting in 2013 is the same officer that's involved in my son's death.
Which one is it?
Jared Cumber. He was involved in Breonna Sharp's murder, and he's involved in Desmond Phillips' murder. Now, what is that telling you? Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Gatterman, he had a racial episode back in high school, from my understanding, here in Butte County. And again, like I said, they are not trained. They are not trained properly in mental health. The district attorney and the chief O'Brien get up there and they say, oh, my officers are highly trained, they are overqualified in mental health. And then you turn around and the captain said, no, they're not.
And he's not. Butte County?
Yes, and he teaches the class, and he resigned because of this. He was so bothered about the killing of Desmond Phillips to where he resigned. So why do you? Every press conference he gets to is a different story, and all I know is who's next. If we don't get these guys off the force and we don't get them brought up on charges, who is next? I'm sitting here now, but we don't get them out of here, man. Somebody else is going to be sitting right where I'm sitting, and this is not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be protect and serve, not seek and destroy. you know, and that's what these evil, and all police officers aren't bad cops, though. You know what? That's what I want to get out. All police officers aren't bad. They just happen to be some that were bad, and they're back out there on the streets.
So the community has been rallying for you to try to help and keep the police department's actions accountable. You noted earlier that that you wanted to have an outside investigation.
Yes. Just plain and simple, this place is so corrupt, and the DA is so corrupt. And 6 hours after my son was murdered, he held a press conference saying that it was a justifiable shooting. And he didn't even finish the investigation, but him and O'Brien's mind is already made up that it was justifiable. And how can you get a fair trial here? No, we need to get it out of this county somewhere where justice will be served on Desmond's behalf. And we don't want any more Desmonds in this county. You know, you shouldn't be condemned or targeted from the color of your skin. You know?
How are you keeping up this fight while grieving?
It's tough. It's tough, but I know that I have to be a voice for my son. I have to be a voice for this community. I do. I have to be a voice for this community and for my son because, again, like I said, I don't want anybody to feel what I'm feeling, when it could be prevented. You got some vigilantes out there. You got some bad cops out there. And I don't want anybody else to feel what I'm feeling. I don't want anybody else to have to put their baby to rest, I don't want anybody else to wake up and look and your child ain't there. I'm used to seeing my son saying, "Good morning, baby. I'll see you when I get back," or "Dad, where are we gonna go eat? Where are we going to eat today?" Or, I was always paying, but yeah, but man, I don't want anybody to feel what I'm feeling. I haven't had time to grieve. But I've been going, and Desmond and God has given me the strength, the energy to keep up this fight, and I'm gonna keep it up. I'm gonna keep it up until justice is served. That's what I am gonna do. I'm not going away. I'm not. I have the family is. We have a nice, very good, high-profile lawyer, and we also have one that we're talking to as well for a criminal. And like I said, it's going to come. It's going to come. It may take a little time, but it will come because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not.
So what are the next steps?
The next step is to get them fired and to get them charged with, like I said again, capital murder. Because that's what they did. It was a hate crime in the commission of committing a murder. So my next step is that's what I'm focused on, is getting them officers off the street so everybody can be a little safer. 3 weeks after my son is dead, murdered, then they're back at work and they still haven't took the training classes. They still haven't been out there to take the classes. So the DA and the chief of police, they just gave some killers, licensed killers, just give them access to go out there and do this again. Basically, they're killers, but they got a badge on and a gun, and they got these guys that's standing behind them. We all should be afraid, really. We all should be scared. I know that if we don't get them off the streets, and if we don't have them charged and brought them up to be accountable for what they did, we got to make a statement. We can't be just laid scared, stand back scared. Somebody has to stand up, and I'm that person. Desmond didn't die just to die. it's a tragedy with with the Phillips family right now. It's a tragedy, but you know, I do believe, and I have to believe, that something good is going to come out of this, and which is going to be, there's not going to be any more Desmonds, you know, and if it starts in this county, it starts in this county. But, you know, like I said, you should not be murdered, beat up, beat down, mistreated, disrespected because of the color of your skin, or where you live, or where you come from, or what side of the tracks you're on. You know what I mean? It's unacceptable. They can't do anything else to me. You know, you took my baby. They took my baby. You can't hurt me no more. You can't. I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to stay until justice is served. That's what I am going to do. I am. And the world needs to know about this. This is not just going on here in Butte County. It's going on everywhere. You know, some people deserve to wear a badge, some don't. You know, and these guys are just licensed to go kill, basically. And the district attorney, he might as well been there and just pulled the trigger himself, because he turned, okay, justified, they were justified, and then just turn around and put them right back on the streets. That's crazy. That they didn't even go through it. No training, no training, no nothing. They're just back at work like it's, you know, 3-week paid vacation and for killing someone, and then you're back out there to do it again. And it's gonna happen again. If we don't get them off the street and charge them, mark my words, it's gonna happen again. It's gonna happen again. 8 killings, Chico involved shootings in Butte County alone in 4 years. That's pretty high. That's pretty high. So I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Desmond, and I'm just so hurt that I couldn't protect my child. Again, I called the ambulance to come and help my baby. I called for help. I didn't call them to come out and kill my baby. You know, I don't care how it went down. He should not be where he's at. He should not be dead. You understand? If he was a white kid, he would be alive right now. And I know this, and I know that it, like I said again, a hate crime. It's a hate crime, you know. And how can you justify shooting someone 16 times? 16 in the face, the neck, the heart, all upper chest. I got his death certificate, and in the box there, reason for death, they print homicide. That's what they did. Homicide. I get the coroner's report, multiple gunshots to the head, to the face. This is all written down. Multiple gunshots. They didn't aim nowhere. If they had to use a bullet, they could have, if they had to, which they should, if they had training, they would have never used any. But if they had to, they could have shot him in his leg. They could have shot him in the arm or something, you know. They just unloaded. And again, I want to really let this be known that I watched my child falling down, and they were still shooting him. He wasn't coming after them. He was falling to the ground. His body was locked up, and they just shot him. And that is murder, period. I seen it, and I don't care what the DA is talking about or anybody else. I seen it. My grandkids were in the other room. Them bullets went through walls and everything else. So they cannot say, oh, we were worried about who was in the house or their safety. You guys shot up the place, you know? Come on. No, it was murder, and that's what I'm seeking.
Are there still bullet holes in your apartment?
Yes, and they're going to stay there until our investigation is over. His investigation is done, but ours is just beginning. Yeah, they're still there. And actually, they're like, my son is 6'1". They said he came up slashing the bullet holes from my floor to the bullet hole is exactly 3 feet 4 inches. Which means if he was swinging like they said and they were shooting, he would have been shot in his midsection. He was shot in the head. He was shot in the heart. He was shot in the neck, in the face. We're going to let him explain that. But yes, we're doing our own investigation, and it's just beginning, and it'll come out. It'll come out. The truth will come out, so it'll come out. This place is just, man, this town is just so corrupt, but you got so many good people in this town too. I never knew that there were there are a lot of people in the community that are stepping up, and a lot of people know that it was wrong, know that the officers did wrong, and they've reached out to us, and we just, I'm embracing all that because, I thought that I would be in this fight by myself, but no, I'm not. Desmond and God's not letting me be in this fight. I have, some very, very Serge, Mariah, my cousins, Chili Willie, and everybody. I'm not alone, because I couldn't do it by myself, But I have a really good team, And I'll tell everybody, if you can beat this man up here, you're bad. You're bad. You're a bad man. If you can beat God, you bad. You bad. I go to the grave and hang out with my son at least every 2 weeks. I go out there and I just hang out and just wonder and just ask myself, why is my child, or why is he down there? Why?
DA Ramsey asked to interview you a couple of times. Why did you not interview with him?
I went into DA Ramsey's office. He was playing tag with my son's body. We were trying to get my son home. My daughter, my grandsons, her boyfriend, we all went into his office. DA Ramsey was trying to record us, and he thought we didn't know. He was trying, and he asked questions. I'm not answering any questions to you. I already know. You told me that the shooting was justified 6 hours after my son was dead. He interviewed a couple of my witnesses that live in my apartment complexes. He disregarded what they told him, which they told him the same thing I told him, and he still find them justified. So why waste your time? He made up his mind. He's not going to prosecute those officers. He's not going to bring them up on charges. Why waste your time? It's bigger than Mike Ramsey. I'm going above Mike Ramsey, Butte County. I'm going federal, Supreme Court, grand jury, the whole nine, Washington, because my son is worth that. He deserves that. My son should not be dead. He just turned 25 years old. They took his life. They took his life out of hate, and they're going to spend the rest of their life behind bars. Fade for a fade. That's what I'm aiming for, because Ramsey, you can tell him in one ear, out the other. He's so corrupt, it's pathetic. So no, I'll give him a live interview. It's not going to do no good. I'll give him a live interview. If that's what he wants, I will. And I'll tell him exactly what I seen. See, Ramsey wasn't there that night. I was. He wasn't there. I was. I seen everything. And like I said, I got to relive that. Every day I wake up, I think about that 24/7. Every night I go to sleep, I think about that. All I see in my mind is my son falling. This is what I see every day, all day, is my baby falling, being shot. That's what I'm going through right now. That's what I see every day. Every day. That's what I see. Sorry, Desmond. That's what I see every day. They see my baby falling and them shooting, and I couldn't even do nothing, man. And that's why I say they had their mind made up, because they did it so fast. But they weren't expecting me to come out the room. That's where they got jacked up. They weren't expecting me to come out the room. And I did. Yeah, I've been trying to get the incident report since April 3rd. I go back every 10 days, like they say, and right now to date, they still will not release the incident report. Same thing with my son's body when it was here. I asked him, look, your investigation over, will you release my son's body so we can take him home and lay him to rest? He told me that my son was at the coroner's office. I go to the coroner's office. They say he's at Bidwell Chapel. I go to Bidwell Chapel. They say he's at the coroner's office. They were playing little tag things with my child. Come to find out, he was at Brucey. And the only way we did get him was the funeral home from Sacramento had to call so they could try to track him down where they can come pick him up and take him home.
How long did it take to bring him home?
It took over, after his investigation, it was about 7 to 8 days after. You know, when I initially went, that's why we went to Mike Ramsey's office and we asked him to release my son's body. He said, I'll release his body. This was on, I believe it was a Thursday or Friday we went in. He said, I'll release your son's body. You should be able to pick him up Monday at the latest. Monday turned into past the following Monday. And like I said, they were playing, you know, I don't know. I asked him, look, please let me have my son's body, release it. And they just was giving me the runaround. You know, he's at Bidwell, he's at the coroner's office, he's at Bidwell. And then I hear he was in Orville at, there's a funeral home over there. I can't think of the name right now. But he was everywhere. And why are you sending and taking my baby's body everywhere? Just give him here, let us go home and bury him.
And why are they not giving you the incident report?
Your guess is good as mine. They keep talking about, oh, it's not ready, and then this and that. I got a call a few days ago from the Chico Police Department. She said, well, it's going to take another 14 days because it's a lot of stuff and it's a lot of paperwork or something. I don't know. And I just said, you know what? Whatever. You know, whatever. I'm gonna get it, but it's been over 2 months now, and since I've been trying to get it, and they're still not releasing it. His investigation's been over. You know, the same thing with his property. It took me like a month or so after his investigation to get his property. You know, they were just, you know, oh, it's at DOJ, it's at the Chico Police Department. DOJ, we got to release it to the Chico Police Department, then you can go get it. And it was just a lot of just crap, you know. And like I said, you know, they can do all that all they want to, but it's gonna, the dark will come to light. You know, they're so crooked and corrupt and evil, you know.
What are you hoping to find in this incident report? Anything?
I need it because I know that it's full of untruth. You know, I want it because, like again, like I said, I'm doing, I'm collecting my stuff for when the day comes that they are charged and brought up on charges. Because there's an old saying, you tell one lie, you got to tell two. And they've changed their story so many times, and it's you know, it just amazes me how the DA gets up there and talks. And from day one, from the time that happened, he was downing the Phillips family. he was saying all these negative things about the Phillips family. This man don't even know us, you know. He don't know what happened there. I do. I was there. I was present. He wasn't, you know. But for someone that be so uncaring and just so snobby and just don't care, that's really an insult. When somebody loses a loved one and they're hurting, and for this cat to be so disrespectful and just, you know, with his smirk, like, you know, who cares if your son was killed or murdered, that type of thing, that hurts, you know. And this community, I mean, really, we need to wake up, man, because this guy here is man, he's the devil. He's the devil. He's so damn corrupt, it's a shame, you know. And for anybody to have all that hate, I don't, you know, I just don't get it. I don't.
Is there anyone fighting for you at the police department level? Anyone you can confide in there?
No, no one's ever reached out from the police department since my son has been dead. No one's ever reached out and offered any counseling or any type of services, you know. And again, like I said, the captain of the police department, the Chico Police Department, the captain, when he came out and made that statement of them not telling the truth about their mental health training, that they attended his class, that to me was a reach out, you know, and that was a blessing, you know, because it's telling the community, it's telling everybody, well, they said this, and now the guy that actually runs the class and teaches the class, he's saying this. This guy here, he resigned, he's quitting teaching over the murder of Desmond. You know, there are some good people. There are some good police officers. There are some Christian police officers. There's some just good police officers. And then you got the bad ones, you know. And Captain Andy Dutch, I hope I'm saying his last name correct. I want to thank him because, you know, that must have taken a lot for him to come out, you know, and reveal that. And I know he's probably catching a lot from that, because, you know, the police, they say you know, they got their code or whatever, you know, we don't tell on each other, but he did the right thing. You know, he did the human thing. He did the Christian thing. He did the right thing. Like I said, some police officers deserve to wear a badge, and there's a lot of them that don't, you know. And Jagdavan and Flyer and Cumber, police like that, they don't deserve a badge. And the sergeant that was in charge that night, I'm holding him accountable as well, because he is the sergeant. He's the one in charge. You know what I mean? That shouldn't have went down the way it went down. If they had training, they would have known that you do not startle someone with PTSD, anybody with mental health. If they had training, that would have never went down the way it went. You know what I mean? They've killed, 4 mental health patients in Butte County within the last 4 years.
Was your son receiving treatment for his mental health as well?
He was just diagnosed with PTSD. He was, they gave him medication for it. And again, the police department, they were aware of his condition. They knew he had a mental condition. The same cops that killed him were the same cops that came to our house prior. And there was a female officer. She talked to my son. He got up voluntarily because she had experience. And she kept him calm. You know, but when you yell at someone, that just aggravates them and agitates them more when they have a mental disorder like that.
Were you hearing a lot of yelling in the other room?
They didn't do no yelling. They didn't do any. They came unannounced. They didn't bang on the door and said, "Chico Police, open the door." They kicked that door in, they tased my son, and they shot him. It was just like that. Desmond heard the fire department talking about calling Chico Police. That's why Desmond shut the door and he locked the door. Okay? If he shut the door and locked the door, they should have been on the phone calling, like I said, mental health, or calling the crisis center or something, you know, someone with experience that could defuse the situation, but no, they had their mind made up. They kicked the door in, they tased him, and they murdered him. And I seen my child get murdered. And that's a really tough thing to do, to witness. That's hard. That's hard, you know, that's hard because we're a very, very close family. We're a loving family. And like I said, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter with the police department. I'm not out to get the police department. I'm out to get the ones that did what they did to my child, period. I don't even know them other officers, just like they didn't know Desmond. How you gonna just come and just murder somebody or do whatever you just do? So you don't even know him. He's never done nothing to you, you know? But they did what they did. And they knew what they were gonna do before they came in. Because again, like I said, they didn't announce that they were there. They didn't bang on there and say, Chico Police, open the door. None of that. They said they looked through there, Desmond's walking around, pacing back and forth. He's by himself. There's no immediate threat. That's thrown out the window. I could see if they looked through the window and he was cutting up one of us or stabbing us or something, then yeah, kick the door in and try to, you know what I mean? None of that. They seen him walking by himself. They kicked the door in. See, that's the thing. They thought that they weren't going to be seen. They were not expecting me to come out of the room. I came out of the room right when everything was going down. And they weren't expecting that. And if their guns had been empty, if they hadn't been empty, they might have took me out too, because I was a witness, you know?